The congressman is here. The Honorable Tim Griffin joins us here on the phone. Tim Griffin, how are you? Welcome to the Dave Elswick Show.
I can barely hear you. Did I lose you?
No, you've got me.
There you go. Let me see if I can.
I'll just yell a little louder into your phone. How's that?
Yeah, that's a little better.
All right, so let me ask you the debt ceiling. We've been talking about it. Do not vote for raising that ceiling if there's not trillions of dollars of cuts attached to it.
Well, I totally agree. I think I was on the TV this morning, and I think the words I used was that I haven't seen a plan proposed yet by really anybody that's in a position to propose one that I could vote for. I've certainly seen some people propose stuff on Facebook, but I don't think I've seen any official proposals that I could vote for.
Okay. So what's the feeling in Washington? You're there in the House. You have a Republican majority. That does not mean there's a conservative majority, though, but you have a Republican majority. What's the feeling? Are they really ready to go to the mats about this?
Yeah, I think that I've talked to both rank-and-file folks and folks that are in leadership, and I think that people see this as a real opportunity to deal with trillions, not billions, as we talked about earlier. I think folks see this as an opportunity to finally get the president's attention on it. I mean, I started sort of wondering aloud a few days ago. I was talking to a friend. I said, do you think that the administration would have any interest in cutting one penny from the budget had we not won in November? And I think the answer, you don't have to guess, the answer is no. All you got to do is look at the president's budget that he proposed this year. And it was an increase.
Oh, yeah.
So he didn't actually even attempt anything approaching fiscal responsibility until we pushed him on the continuing resolution. But more importantly, after Paul Ryan made his speech, the president came back with a mulligan and gave a speech that the CBO said didn't have enough specifics in it to actually be scorable. And so, I think that most of us feel like if we don't make sure that some sort of structural spending reform happens, then it won't happen. And and again, I don't think it's just a group of the most conservative members. Look, every Republican in the House voted against raising the debt ceiling, and I think it was, I said near 100. I think it's 82 Democrats voted with us. Well, that ought to come up. That ought to come as a wake-up call to the president. That ought to tell him he's got a long way to go before he starts peeling off no votes and pushing them into the yes column. And I personally, when I hear some of the statements made by people like Pelosi, who say, I absolutely, positively will not do anything to reform Medicare, which is effectively what she said. I think the word she uses cut, but we all know what she means. With language like that, it's hard to know what kind of deal we're going to get that we can vote for. But you have to be optimistic. But I'm still stuck on no for until I see something structural. But it's going to have to be trillions, not because it's a competition to see who can cut the most. It's because they won't have the impact that we need if it's not trillions of dollars.
Yeah, and you're talking real cuts. We've got the congressman on the line with us. It's Tim Griffin from the 2nd District. Tim, we got to pause for our traffic. We'll be back with you in just a moment. We got Dan Greenberg and Glenn Gallus here with us as well, and we'll let them join in the conversation as soon as we come back. Let me remind you about Hollenbach and 95 degrees outside. Tim Griffin is our guest, congressman from the 2nd District. And Tim, Glenn Gallus is here. He wanted to ask you about the debt ceiling.
Hey, Tim, how you doing today?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, first I want to thank you for your leadership and the entire congressional leadership on their vote to unanimously, not raise the debt ceiling. I thought that was absolutely great move to make.
Thank you.
Now, my question is, where does it stand with those that voted not to raise the debt ceiling? How are they, as a group, being bonded together to change this argument and to get to those $1 trillion? Because according to what I have found, is they say that we got about $300 billion left over in the kitty, so to speak, to take us through August. Where are we standing on the negotiations today as far as moving this ball forward?
Well, obviously I'm down here in Little Rock this week, and there's two sort of separate sets of negotiation going on. You got the majority leader, Eric Cantor, who is sitting at the table representing the House in the meetings with Vice President Biden and some others. The president is not personally involved, or he's not personally attending those. Cantor is our representative, and Boehner's not at that table. Boehner is talking with the president on sort of a separate avenue, if you will, talking about some things that we've got to get done. Obviously, I'm not on those phone calls, but I can tell you that when we get back next week, I'm sure we'll get an update. We probably will not get an update this week while we're home. Occasionally we'll have conference calls where we do, but I don't think we're going to get one this week. I think that the folks in the conference, in the Republican conference, I think we're pretty much unified on this. We understand how important it is that we pay our bills. We also understand that we have plenty of money coming into the Treasury to service our debt. So the idea that we immediately have to default at some point in August is just not true. There's enough income revenue coming into the Treasury to service the debt for some time. Now, there's not enough to service the debt and continue to spend at the level we're spending on everything else, but there's enough there to pay the credit card payments, if you will. But we all understand how serious this is. But I'll tell you, we also understand how serious it is to have a $14 trillion debt that the president has shown almost zero interest in reducing. In fact, if you go back to the president's budget from earlier this year, it was crafted after the last election. It was crafted knowing full well that we have a debt problem. The budget the president proposed doubles the debt in 5 years and triples it in 10. So the idea that this president is serious in any way about truly getting the debt and out of control spending under control, I just think it's strange credibility to say that. So I think we're all just sort of sitting around going, all right, you wanted a vote on the debt limit without any strings attached and see what would happen. The president actually requested that in a letter to the speaker. We gave him that vote. Now, he ought to be sitting back going, hey, there's 300-something people that voted against raising it. I better get to work.
Yeah.
So we're just going to sit and wait. And if I can make one more point, anybody that tells you, hey, well, you need to be focused on jobs, I say this to them. Absolutely, we should be focused on jobs. And one of the many things, in addition to tax reform, in addition to less regulation, in addition to opening up our energy development, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, one of the critical things that we must do for job creation is deal with the debt. Because if we do not deal with the debt, we will see job loss. Ask Greece how the debt is related to jobs.
Mm-hmm. All right, the congressman's still with us. Dan Greenberg had a question for
Tim,
you.
it's a pleasure to be represented by you. I wanted to ask you something.
Thank you, Dan.
Something very different than the debt limit, because I know that you're focused a little bit on what's going on beyond our shores as well. I just read where the head of the Armed Services Committee over in the Senate side is talking about proposing something like a 10,000, 15,000 drawdown in troops from Afghanistan. What do your constituents need to know about what's happening in Afghanistan right now, and what should the United States be doing?
Sure. Well, I appreciate you asking that. I was in Afghanistan last weekend, and, I have generally been supportive of what we're doing in Afghanistan, and before I drew any hard conclusions, I told reporters that I wanted to go to Afghanistan and see with my own eyes. So I did that. We traveled around a bunch of different parts, the major areas in Kabul and Bagram. Also went to Kandahar, but we also went to some villages where Special Forces are doing what's called VSOs, Village Stabilization Operations. My view is this. Obviously, we cannot be there indefinitely. We can't afford to financially, and there's a lot of other reasons why we shouldn't be there indefinitely. By the same token, we cannot pull out tomorrow. We are drawing down, and we will continue to draw down over time. But it has to be measured. It has to be done in consultation with the commanders, and it can't be like a lot of people, with all due respect, who comment on my Facebook page saying, "Get out of there today." No, we should not get out of there today. We are moving toward drawing down. But we have to remember, and I was reminded as I flew around Afghanistan, we have to remember why we're there. We're not just there to help a poor country. There's a lot of poor countries that we're not doing what we're doing in Afghanistan. We are there because the country historically has not had a strong central government and was a country that terrorists were able to basically rule pretty easily. Taliban, in particular, Al-Qaeda. And so I got briefed by General Petraeus a week ago or so, and he in a nutshell, basically said what other commanders were saying. Look, we're not trying to turn Afghanistan into Switzerland. We are just trying to make it secure enough so that when we pull out, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda that will move in from the Pakistan-Afghanistan border tribal regions and inside Pakistan where they are taking safe haven, when they come back into Afghanistan to do what they do and what led to 9/11, the Afghan government will be strong enough security-wise to handle it so that we don't have to go back over there.
Tim, are you telling us that we can't solve all of Afghanistan's problems in the next 24 hours? Because I think that's really going to disappoint a lot of commenters on your Facebook page.
Well, we can't, and, we're never going to solve all their problems, but we're not trying to. All we're trying to do is make sure they're strong enough to fend off the terrorists that will come back in so that we don't have to be back over there after we leave. And if I could add one thing, the reason that this situation is the way it is because these terrorists take safe haven in the border region, which is treacherous, and also in Pakistan. If we were in Pakistan and had the full cooperation that we need to ferret out all the bad guys, then they wouldn't flood back into Afghanistan when we leave.
Thanks so much, Congressman.
All right. Congressman, thanks so much, Tim. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again here in the next week or so to see how things are going on the debt ceiling.
Thank you all very much.
All right. Talk to you later. Tim Griffin here on the Dave Elswick Show on KARN.